All right, we'll jump into our presentation. Last week, we talked about, what did we talk about last week? Power of positive rewards, just checking on things. I know a lot of people do this when they exercise. My mom still tells me, I walked 10,000 steps today. We track all kind of stuff. I don't know if a Fitbit really generates positive rewards or not. Because then I've also heard people say, I did 20,000 steps today. Like, that should be a positive thing. That's double your daily average. But I was just curious, did anybody think about tracking some of the things they've been doing for their business, their calls or notes? Is that something anybody looked at? Well, okay. Did any of you thought about it? Anybody actually track some things?
I went to Disney last week and walked 7 miles per day.
Whoa.
I did track that.
Okay. That's good.
I tracked last week.
That's a lot. That is a lot. So again, we just look at this as it's all kind of these habits and what habits are we getting into. And as we start moving into the listing presentation, having some good habits to keep us going and keep us on track. Today we're talking about a healthy pipeline. So, and I'm not referring to an oil pipeline. I'm talking about your business pipeline. What do y'all consider to be a healthy pipeline? How many months of clients would you like to have? 6. You like to know for the next 6 months, I'm going to have some transactions, right? I got a listing, I got some sellers coming up, I got some buyers, and then, you feel good about at least half of the year. 6 months is a lot. Who thinks they have 6 months worth of clients in their pipeline? That if you stopped prospecting today, you would at least have business for 6 months. That's great. That's good. That allows you to do some things with your business and take some chances and go out and try other things. Also allows you to take a little bit of a break. But how did you, just curious, Ruthie, how did you get your pipeline that far out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if it's really out that far. I've just got some listings coming up.
It feels like it's out that far.
Yeah, it probably isn't that far, but just referrals and keeping in touch with your clients and that kind of thing. So.
It's working on the relationships. If y'all been here at Bickerstaff Parham for a while, you've probably heard this story. But when I worked at Canucans, oh my gosh, 2003 and 4 is one of the first times an employer gave me a book to read. He gave me this book called No Thanks, I'm Just Looking. That's the #1 thing people would say when you walk in a retail store. Hi, can I help you? No thanks, I'm just looking. Hi, can I help you? No thanks, I'm just looking. I say that all the time because how can I help you is one of the worst questions to ask because it doesn't generate, it's a closed-end question. No, yes. Oh, well, how can I help you? I don't know, you work here, help me. So look at this young guy. This is Reynolds Bickerstaff, manager of Canucans, soon to be successful real estate agent, taking the course at night, studying. This was I think a Canucans Christmas party. And we did the Santa swap. And I was always a big believer in challenge. I was hiring a lot of kids that were in high school or, just in college. And, people are coming in Canucans spending a lot of money. So it was very intimidating for a lot of people. So we would always play. And if you don't remember, Canucans was where Petland is. And Soul Society Fitness, I think that's the name. Anyway, up in where Outback used to be. So Outback was on the end, we're on this end. And I mean, you could tell when people were showing up for dinner and Outback, because you start kind of walking along, looking in windows, they'd pull and tug on the door, and they'd come in 10 or 15 minutes before we're closing, and that's when our sales contest would begin. I would give people an award to see how long they could talk to an Outback customer. Because what is an Outback customer do? They're just looking, right? So I made up a game, and I would get them to, I would tap someone and say, you know, go try this. They're just, because they'd come in the front door and then literally it's like they would walk along the walls like this. Like they wanted to avoid, I'm going to avoid the register over there because I'm just looking. So we would kind of meander through the aisles and racks, and so we knew why they were there, because they were holding their big pager, right? Which we also knew did not work. It was, we were too far out of range from Outback. So after we talked to them, we would, after the game was over, we remind them, hey, you may want to, you know what, you're like 20 feet out of range. We've had people miss reservations because their buzzer doesn't work. And that was partially true. They weren't going to buy anything, so we were getting them out. We had to close. But the point is, say, well, what brings you to the store this evening? Oh, I'm just waiting on a table at Outback. Oh, what do you like to look for while you're waiting on a table at Outback? Oh, instantly we'd get into a conversation with them, whereas sometimes we'd actually sell them something. Oh, well, you know, I'd really like to. They would tell us as if every time they go out to dinner, they just like to go look at things and waste salespeople's time. So we made a game of just having a conversation. The goal was really not to sell them something, it was just to get people talking, right? Which was really, really hard for a lot of folks. But people were coming in the store, so we had to make it a game for them to talk. So I have a giveaway. What source should provide you with 90% of your business each year? Past clients? Part of it's people you know. You're partially right, Kathy. Chrissy was more. It's all people you know.
She's done this longer.
And one thing that I did learn while I was there, and real estate too, is relationships are always the foundation of your business. That's what we tell every new agent that joins our company, is to work on their relationships. But what we've also seen is a progression over the last 2 years in how we develop new ones. And what's been happening in the last 2 years? We haven't met a lot of new people. Some people still aren't even going out. Because the last 2 years, the pandemic has dramatically changed the way we approach building relationships. Some people still don't even shake hands, or they do do you grab a hand? Do you fist bump? What are we doing? Some people just hug and say, I'm done with COVID, get it over with. So it's time for us to get back to talking to people and working on our relationships. Because once it's established, it's less expensive to maintain that relationship than it is to go out and develop a new one. And that's something I learned when I worked for Charlie Canukin. Yes, there was actually a man with the last name Canukin, and he was a very successful entrepreneur. But he told me when I was managing the store, I'd always ask, people would come in, and I'm sure they ask you too, hey, will you sponsor this? Will you pay for an ad in this, in the dance recital magazine, or will you put your sign up at the ball field? They ask you that all the time, probably more so now because y'all are making tons and tons of money. You just got cash sitting under your desk. I've seen it. It's there. You're not investing it. But what Charlie told me is that he took 85% of his advertising marketing budget and put it back into building relationships with his existing customers and clients, and only spent 15% of it on developing new business. Why? It's because they already knew who he was. He had a huge shoe program where he'd give you a $10 card for every pair of running shoes you bought if they were over like $80. And we dread the day people would come in with a stack and get like 3 pairs of new shoes because they've already bought like 12. And then, so then we'd sell them socks and we'd sell them, water, but we'd sell them all kind of other stuff to go with those free shoes. So most retail businesses really understand the fact of customer retention. In real estate, sometimes we can get too focused on attracting new people. And if some of you have a big enough sphere of influence or know people, you can literally just work that database your entire career and be very, very successful. So how do we do that? This is part of the challenge today, is for y'all to look at these things. Who are your existing potential sources of leads? Who's been sending you business? Where have you gotten referrals from? Were they high quality leads? Were some of them low quality? Which ones were you able to convert? A lot of times we look at our database or our relationships as people that do business with us directly, but really it's just people that are ambassadors of our business and help send people to us. They give us a referral because it makes them look good and they feel good about doing it. Who's buying and selling? Who has change going on in their life? There's so much change going on in people's lives right now. Just with the relocation business, corporations, it's taken them 2 years to realize, you know what? We don't need all this space. We can be maybe even more profitable without having 5,000 people in this building, with just bringing in half of them. So where people live, that's going to dramatically change. They don't have to go into the office. They don't have to live where their employer is headquartered. And this is one of the most important things. Those of y'all that have read Ninja Selling or come to some of our training classes, working on your warm and hot lists. People that have change, and the people that need to do something in the next 90 days. You get people on your warm and hot list by going through your database and maintaining those relationships. Y'all said this in here before. You raised your hand. Who knows somebody that wants to sell their house? Almost all of you know somebody that wants to sell their house and it's not on the market for probably a lot of various reasons. Most of them, the most common one is they don't know where they'll go, right? So if you don't know where you're going, why would you sell your house? But what are agents doing to help them figure out where to go? I have witnessed, I'm not just saying this because it's my own parents, but I think people have become more grateful for the relationships that they do have. They're willing to do more for others when it comes to certain situations now than they have before. My parents' neighbor, he moved here in, I think September, August. He's a doctor. Long story, they're now moving to Oklahoma, and they sold their house. And his wife was going to have their baby in Oklahoma, but she started going into labor very, very early, like about 5 or 6 weeks. So, and the Airbnb, they were going to rent for a couple of weeks while he finishes out his contract, reeked of 2 different types of smoke, one being tobacco and one being the other product. And so couldn't find an Airbnb. And his wife's about to have a baby. He and his 2-year-old and aunt have been at my parents' house for a week and a half now, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not saying that because my parents are opening up an Airbnb in their home. I couldn't last a week at my parents' house. My point is, if you go talk to people, you can figure out solutions on how they can make things work, right? If someone really wants to sell their house, there is a place they can stay or go for a short period of time. Maybe it's with a friend. Maybe it's a relative. Maybe it is a hotel or an Airbnb or an apartment. But that's one way to fill up your pipeline, is just start having those conversations. You don't have to be focused on the transaction of mine. You may help them figure out that, this is something I do not even want to do. So what's another way to fill up your pipeline? Go back and review your top 3 methods, strategies, techniques for developing new relationships. Who's met someone new in a Zoom meeting? Yeah, okay. You had to think about that, right? Like, hey, can you stay on the Zoom meeting for a little while longer? I'd like to get to know you more. No, y'all been on Zoom meetings and you've seen people, oh, I didn't know that. That's so-and-so. I met a lot of new people from our Sunday school class when we were doing Zoom meetings. And I had to literally remember their name because I'd only met them on Zoom. And when they showed up in person, it's like, oh my gosh, how's it going? I haven't seen you in months. How's it going? It's good to see you. So where have how have you met new people these past 2 years? Is it, social media? Is it face-to-face? Are you getting back out there and doing things? If you met someone, I hesitate to say you met someone online because that may insinuate you were on an app that you shouldn't be on. That was a joke. It's okay to laugh. Thank you. So most of our relationships have been online these past 2 years, virtually. So think about that. Maybe it's an opportunity to take that relationship offline. Invite somebody to lunch, invite somebody to coffee. Think about the things you did before the pandemic. Did you have people over for dinner? Did you go to people's homes for dinner? Did you go out to dinner? The concert series downtown just started back up. Tons of people used to go to that. So, you all know all this. Success is just the study of the obvious. And hopefully today we're taking obvious 1 and obvious 2. Y'all know how to do all these things. Meeting people is not difficult. And some things are just obvious to others that are not. And I remember when I was involved with Uptown Columbus and the concert series were bringing so many people downtown, some of the merchants complained and closed their door. They complained that 2,000 people were sitting in chairs outside their business and they did nothing to engage with them. And what a missed opportunity. So you're in real estate, whether you like it or not, anytime you go out in public, your business is subject to being open. And you've got to decide if you are going to operate it that way. Maybe you don't want to be open all the time. Maybe you're wearing workout clothes or barn clothes, and maybe you don't care what you're wearing. Your business is always open. You'll help anybody whenever you can. But people are getting back out in the world and they're excited about it. They want to do things. So I don't want you to overlook or miss an opportunity to meet someone new or develop a relationship. And I love this quote. This was from in one of the books I read at Canuckin's. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. You got to prepare for it so when the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. A lot of times people have asked, especially when I interview a lot of new agents on the phone, they say, well, what do you consider to be successful? And the simplest definition I can give of that is things that people find easy to do, others find easy not to do, right? This business isn't complicated. It's just talking to people. You can talk on the phone. You can go out and talk to them in person. You can email them or text. Maybe it's warming up. Maybe it's time to invite somebody to go on a walk around the neighborhood. It's a great way to meet folks. So we know everyone's following their 2022 business plan, right? Y'all pull that out each week and look at it. That Alan and Steve spent so much time going through with you. Yes, a lot of head nods. Thank you. But when you're doing that, you need to take it out at least quarterly and look at it. We just ended a quarter. So in the next couple of days, you need to take out your plan, at least look at it for 20, 30 minutes to see what you wanted to do and to see if you're doing those things. Because 6 months will be here before you know it. And it's so easy to do some of these things each day. Call a couple people, write a note, If you just have lunch with someone once a week, what do you think that would do for your business? Be a great opportunity to build a relationship. Because the benefit of filling up your pipeline and having the discipline to keep it full every month is soon realizing there's an unlimited supply of business waiting for you. You got to remember this, y'all. 80% of agents do not follow up with their clients. And I would argue that's probably even higher right now because it's just so transaction focused, right? You probably have even had calls or talked to people that maybe you had the house listed and someone else represented them to purchase it, and they're already thinking about moving on to something else. That's very common right now. There's enough business for all of you if you just talk to people frequently. And there's lots of ways to communicate with them. And if you don't know anyone, then you need to go meet some people and talk to them frequently. And the good news is there are plenty of people to talk to. Plenty. I spent almost an hour talking to I say 90, she's at least 90 years old, woman yesterday that I sent a letter to that owns a large tract of land. And she called me up, this was last week, I sent it, she called me up Monday and said, will you come meet with me? She's never had a cell phone, no email, just has a landline. I think she's had this number for 65 years because she told me she used to press FA to dial. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I know that's when there were only 4 digits. Anyway, I could have sat there all day long talking to her. It was incredible. And she didn't want to actually sell the property I wrote her a letter about, but she asked me to look into something else for another piece of property that I didn't even know she owned. All I did was send out a letter, and it was literally 3 sentences. It wasn't about who I am, how great I am. I just said, I don't know if you'd be interested in selling this property, but I have an offer that I'd like to present to you. If you say no, that's okay. Do you have some time to meet in the next couple of weeks? And that is honest. If she wanted to sell it, I have an offer ready for her to review. But she's not ready, so I'm not going to talk about it. But she is ready to sell something else. But as I wrote that letter last week, I thought, I've looked at this property online for at least 10 years. Why have I never sent something to her before? It's just a letter. And the funniest thing she said to me was, Reynolds, I've had 8 or 9 calls about this property already. And usually when you hear something like that, you're like, oh God, I'm the 10th person that's called about this. I said, no, Miss So-and-so. I said, I bet a lot of those calls were robocalls, weren't they? Because how did you know? They don't know anything about this property at all. They're just calling me out of the blue. She said, that's why I called you about your letter. We tend to think that every inquiry someone's getting or every call is a legitimate call or a serious one. It's not. They're unprofessional. They haven't done their research, and they're definitely not going to come by for a face-to-face meeting. So think about these relationships. How are you building it? It's really, really simple. You just have to communicate with folks. And you got to do this too. Just worry about your grass, right? Y'all seen that? It's hanging in a famous office building somewhere. I thought this is a great way to look at, the grass isn't always greener. Just focus on yours. There's plenty to do in your own business. And each of y'all has such a great opportunity to have an incredible year if we just stay focused on doing some of these simple things each week, each day, and each month. And you can all have pipelines that are full 6 months. And when you look out and view that, it is a wonderful feeling to know that you've got that much business. And then you know what happens? You keep doing the things that got you there, and you always have 6, 7, 8 months worth of business lined up in the pipeline. And that's the goal, to not have to worry about things. So if we can do the simple things each day, you'll have plenty of opportunity to go on appointments, to talk to people about selling their homes, and to present to them why you're the agent they should be working with. We're going to help you with all that. If you want Alan or Steve to help review your business plan and see where you are after the first quarter, they'd love to sit down and do that with you. If you'd rather just pretend to look at it and see if it's there in the folder, you can do that too. Or not look at it, you can do that too. But just know we're here to help do whatever you'd like. And we're going to be next week bringing you kind of a preview of our new listing presentation to help you win more listings, maintain our commission rate, and to help you build up your pipeline. So appreciate y'all being here this morning. Thank you.
Yeah.